उज्ज्वल सी यमुना, निर्मल सी गंगा, उज्ज्वल सी यमुना, परम पावनी सा तेरा प्यार बाबा, मधुर रागिनी सा तेरा प्यार बाबा, शीतल चांदनी सा तेरा प्यार बाबा। खुशियाँ मिली है, खुशियाँ मिली है बेशुमार बाबा, मधुर रागिनी सा तेरा प्यार बाबा। जिंदगी सोने जैसी खरी हो गई, कैसी हम पे ये जादूगरी हो गई। जिंदगी सोने जैसी खरी हो गई, कैसी हम पे ये जादूगरी हो गई। जीवन में आई, जीवन में आई अब बहार बाबा, मधुर रागिनी सा तेरा प्यार बाबा। ज्ञान की पाई अनमोल हमने निधि, योग की तुमसे सीखी अनोखी विधि। ज्ञान की पाई अनमोल हमने निधि, योग की तुमसे सीखी अनोखी विधि। हमें ले चले हो, हमें ले चले हो उस पार बाबा, मधुर रागिनी सा तेरा प्यार बाबा।
Baba's Murli today, it's a very beautiful Murli. The main theme of the Murli is the subject of introversion. And a few days ago, I was with Dadi Ratan Mohini. And I said to her, Daddy, this word isolation is very strong now. People are being asked to self-isolate. But for the Brahmins, in spiritual terms, it means we're being asked to become introvert. I remember one of Baba's Avyakt Murlis way back in 84, around that time, March 84, and Baba was taking up the subject of how to discipline your workers, you know, your five senses, your mind, your intellect, sanskars. And Baba had said, if any of your workers create any mischief, then put them in the furnace of introversion. And I think that over time, even in our journeys, you know, there is an element of wastage that happens. There is an element of expansion unnecessarily that happens. And especially since Daddy's departure, the feeling is that the lockdown is like an enforced furnace, putting all of Papa's children into a furnace to really clear out any residual cobwebs, dirt, and really sort ourselves out. So when the final curtain actually opens, we will be ready. The angels will be ready to serve the world. So Baba's Murli is very relevant and precious according to the time at this moment. And I'll share a little bit about what happened after Daddy passed away, also after Murli, and my own experiences of Daddy after Murli. And one of the things I'm just remembering now is in that conversation with Daddy Ratan Mohini, I said to her, what do you do in introversion? And she gave a very beautiful answer. She said, you take something from Baba's Murli and you hold yourself in that thought and feeling. You know, what is extroversion? It's an attitude. Bahar Mukta, we look outside, we see outside, we think of things outside us. And here, introversion is that very, very deep practice wherein my mind and my heart, I'm sustaining what Baba is telling me, about the world, about himself, and about the future. And as I start to sustain that energy, it automatically makes me withdraw away from everything that's material and everything that's temporary. And then, you know, a very deep silence starts to accumulate in introversion. Because when you think of this whole thing of this lockdown and people being asked to stay indoors, people are saying that the earth is healing. Nature is healing, even though man has done so much. The rivers are being healed, the pollution is being cleared up. And so if you take that to a very micro level, as we practice spiritual introversion, then what starts to happen very deeply inside when I disengage from all my physical faculties, or, you know, I'm less attentive there, then it just starts to find its order. Illnesses start to clear up. The body finds its natural rhythm again. A detox starts to happen inside. And so silence that gets accumulated in introversion is probably one of the greatest healers and medicine that we need at this time. So Baba's Murli is very special, and Baba also emphasizing the subject that, you know, when we're on the field of service and we give gyan, it's so important to feel and check the pulse of souls. Sometimes souls come and they just want a glass of water, and we end up giving them a tray of diamonds, and so they don't have value for it. And so, you know, checking their pulse, seeing, have they recognized who it is that's giving them this knowledge? Because then they'll have value for the jewels of knowledge and be able to imbibe it in their lives. So this is Baba's Murli of the 25th of April 2020. the essence. Sweet children, first check each one's pulse and enable them to have faith in Alpha before going any further. Unless they have faith in Alpha, it is a waste of your time to give them knowledge. Question: which main effort enables you to win a scholarship? Answer: the effort of remaining introverted. You must remain very introverted. The Father is the benefactor, and he advises you for your own benefit. The yogi children who are introverted never become body conscious. They don't sulk or fight with one another. Their behavior is very royal and dignified. They speak very little and are interested in serving the yajna. Although they might not speak a lot of knowledge, they do service whilst in yoga. Om Shanti. In general, and especially when service news of the exhibitions come, it is seen that when people don't have full faith in the main aspect of recognizing the Father, it's very difficult for their intellects to take in anything else you explain to them. Although they continue to say that it's very good, they don't recognize the Father. First of all, there has to be recognition of the Father. The Father's elevated versions are: remember me. Only I am the purifier. By remembering me, you will become pure from impure. This is the main aspect. There is only one God, and he alone is the purifier. He is the ocean of knowledge, the ocean of happiness, the highest on high. When this faith is instilled in them, they realize that the Vedas, the Bhagavad Gita, and all the scriptures of the path of devotion are false. God himself says, I never spoke those scriptures. The knowledge I give is not in the scriptures. This is the knowledge of the path of devotion. I come and give you knowledge, grant you salvation, and then return home. This knowledge then disappears. When your reward of knowledge ends, the path of devotion begins. Only when they have faith in the Father will they be able to understand the versions of God, and that all those scriptures belong to the path of devotion. Knowledge and devotion last for half a cycle each. God gives his own introduction when he comes. I tell you that the duration of each cycle is 5,000 years. I explain to you through the mouth of Brahma. Therefore, the first and main thing that you have to fit in their intellects is who God is. Until this aspect sits in their intellects, there will be no effect of any of the other things you explain to them. All the effort lies just in this. Now, this is a very deep subject, because when you think of how the human mind works, when we give value to the person that's giving knowledge, we give value to what they say. Yeah, because we love Bab Dada, we remember what Baba says to us and we value it. We recognize it because we recognize Daddy. We give value to what Daddy says to us. Those few words are so precious. And so in the same way, this whole subject of recognition of the Father, that until unless souls recognize that it's the highest on high Father that is giving me this knowledge, then the highest on high knowledge doesn't sink in. And then what happens is they get trapped in the person that's giving the knowledge instead of the one up above that is really giving the knowledge. They get trapped in the instrument. So that's why Baba says all the effort lies in this. The Father comes to awaken you from the grave. You won't wake up by studying the scriptures. The Supreme Soul is the form of light. Therefore, his children too are forms of light. However, the souls of you children have become impure. And because of this, you lights have become dim. You have become tamopradhan. If you don't first of all give the Father's introduction, all the effort you make and the opinions you ask people to write are of no use at all. This is why service is not taking place. If they had faith, they would understand that this knowledge really is being given through Brahma. It is because people haven't recognized the Father that they become so confused when they see Brahma. All of you know that the path of devotion has now passed. In the Iron Age, it is the path of devotion. At the Confluence Age, it is the path of knowledge. All of us belong to the Confluence Age, and we are studying Raj Yoga. We are imbibing divine virtues for the new world. Those who are not at the Confluence Age are becoming more and more tamopradhan day by day. On that side, their tamopradhan stage is increasing, and on this side, your Confluence Age is ending. These matters have to be understood. Those who explain these things are also number-wise in how they explain. Baba inspires you every day to make effort. It is those whose intellects have faith who gain victory. Some children have a very strong habit of just speaking uselessly. They don't even remember the Father. It is very difficult to remember Baba. Today, Baba's admitting it himself. They stop remembering the Father and they continue to speak about their own things. Until faith in the Father has been instilled in them, you should not explain any other picture. If they don't have faith, they won't understand anything. If they don't have faith in Alpha, it's a waste of time to go into Beta and Theta, etc. You do not feel the pulse of anyone. First of all, give the Father's introduction to those who come to perform the opening ceremony. This is the highest on high Father, the ocean of knowledge. Only at this time does the Father give you this knowledge. There is no need for this knowledge in the Golden Age. Later on, devotion begins. The Father says, I come when it's the time for the end of degradation, which means at the end of the time of your defaming me. Very interesting definition of degradation. Yes, everything reaching the absolute limits, but also Baba's saying the end of the time of your defaming me. You had to defame me for half a cycle. You didn't know the occupation of anyone you were worshipping. You children sit with others and explain to them. However, if you yourselves don't have yoga with the Father, what would you explain to others? Although you say Shiv Baba, if you don't have any yoga at all, your sins cannot be absolved, and you would be unable to imbibe anything. The main thing is remembrance of the One Father. You children may well be enlightened souls, but if you don't become yogi, you must definitely have a trace of body consciousness in you. So, the method to become a yogi is introversion. That's the preparation required to become a yogi. So we can start disengaging from body consciousness. Explaining to others without remaining in yoga is of no use at all. Then, because you become body conscious, you cause distress to someone or other. Because some children give good lectures, they believe that they are very knowledgeable souls. The Father says they may well be knowledgeable souls, but they lack yoga. They make very little effort to have yoga. The Father tells you so much. What does he remind us of? He tells you so much to keep your chart. The main aspect is yoga. Some children are keen to explain knowledge, but they have no yoga. And because they have no yoga, their sins are not absolved. What status will they then claim? Many children fail in the subject of yoga. They think that they have 100% yoga. But Baba says they only have 2%. Baba himself says, I stay in remembrance when I start a meal, but then I forget. Even when I bathe, I remember Baba. Even though I am his child, I forget to remember him. You must think that this one is to claim number one, and that he must therefore definitely be accurate in knowledge and yoga. Nevertheless, Baba says, a great deal of effort is needed to have yoga. A great deal of effort is needed to have yoga. Just try it and see. Then relate your experience. For instance, if you are a tailor who sews clothes, you should check yourself to see whether you stay in remembrance of Baba. Baba is our very sweet beloved. To the extent that we remember him, so our sins will be absolved, and we will become Satopradhan. Check yourself to see for how long you stay in remembrance. Show the results to Baba. Only by staying in remembrance will there be benefit. However, there cannot be any benefit if you explain too much at once. They won't understand anything. How can anything happen unless they understand Alpha? They do not even know the one Alpha. All the zeros just remain zeros for them. They understand nothing. By adding zeros to Alpha, there is benefit. So you remember the one and then you add zero and your income multiplies. That's why yoga is an income. And so that's why Baba's saying, when you remember Alpha, by adding zeros to Alpha, there is benefit. If there isn't yoga, time is wasted throughout the day. The father feels mercy and wonders what status they will claim. If it's not in someone's fortune, what can the father do? The father repeatedly says, imbibe divine virtues. Remain in remembrance of the father. Remembrance is most essential. By having remembrance, you will develop love, and only then will you be able to follow Srimad. By having remembrance, you will develop love, and only then will you be able to follow Srimad. Many subjects have to be created. You have come here to become Lakshmi or Narayan, and this requires effort. Although you will all go to heaven, some of you will experience punishment and claim a low status at the end. Baba knows all of you children. The children who are weak in yoga become body conscious. They sulk and continue to fight. Yeah, very interesting sign. How do you know when you're in body consciousness? Immediate tension begins, some form of resistance begins, conflict begins, even if it's internally, and then inevitably it starts to get projected externally in relationships. And so Baba says, the children who are weak in yoga become body conscious. They sulk and continue to fight. The activity and behavior of those who are firm yogis is very royal and good. They speak very little. They are interested in serving the yajna. There are some who don't even mind sacrificing their bones in serving the yajna. However, Baba says, stay in remembrance for much longer. Through this, you will develop love for the Father and experience happiness. The Father says, I come into the land of Bharat. I come to uplift the people of Bharat. In the Golden Age, you were the masters of the world. You were in the stage of salvation. Who then led you into degradation? Ravan. When did it begin? The Copper Age. You receive salvation for half a cycle in a second. You claim the inheritance for 21 births. You know, this is such a beautiful aspect. The moment a child is born into a family, you know, if we take the example of royal families today, aristocratic families today, people who have wealthy families, the child becomes an heir immediately to the father's fortune. And then in its life, how much that child multiplies that fortune is in its hands. How much he multiplies that inheritance is in his hands. But in the outset, he gets given the full inheritance. And then how he uses it is then what he's left with towards the end of it. And so the moment we're born to Baba, we immediately have a right to the full inheritance for 21 births. Therefore, whenever a good person comes, first of all, give him the Father's introduction. The Father says, children, it's only by studying this knowledge that you can receive salvation. You children know that the drama is being enacted second by second. Even if you just keep this in your intellects, you will be able to remain able. While sitting here, your intellects should understand how the world cycle continues to move like a louse, how it continues to tick away second by second. The whole part is being played according to the drama. As each second passes, it is finishing. As each second passes, it is finishing. The reel continues to unwind. It turns very slowly. This is the unlimited drama. The elderly can't keep these things in their intellects. Knowledge cannot sit in their intellects. They don't even have yoga. In spite of that, they are still Baba's children. Yet those who do service claim a higher status. Everyone else receives a low status. Keep it firmly in your awareness how this unlimited drama and cycle continue to turn. Just as a record continues to play, so we souls too are filled with a record like that. It's incredible. Each tiny little soul has such an unlimited recording stored inside it. Such a huge part is contained in such a tiny soul. This is a wonder. Nothing is visible. These are matters that have to be understood. Those with gross intellects are unable to understand this. As time passes, whatever we say will be repeated after 5,000 years. No one else has this understanding. Those of you who are Maharathis will repeatedly think about these things and explain them to others. This is why Baba says, first, tie a knot to remember the Father. The Father says, remember me. You souls now have to return home. Renounce all your relationships of the bodies. Continue to remember the Father for as long as possible. This effort incognito. Baba advises, just give them the Father's introduction. When you only remember Baba very little, you are only able to give very little of Baba's introduction. Interesting statement. When you only remember Baba very little, you are only able to give very little of Baba's introduction. First of all, you have to make the Father's introduction sit in their intellects. Tell them, now write that He truly is our Father. Forget everything else, including your bodies, and remember the one Father. Only by having this remembrance can you become Satopradhan from Tamopradhan. There is no pain or sorrow in the lands of liberation and liberation in life. Day by day, very good things are explained to you. These are the only things you should talk about amongst yourselves. You also have to become worthy. You know, the subject of becoming worthy is me using everything that I have, my mind, my words, my activity, in accordance with Baba's Gyan. That's what it means to qualify yourself and make yourself worthy. Sometimes, you know, we listen to knowledge and we keep knowledge in our intellects, like keeping things in a bank, but yet there are other things in our nature and sanskars, old nature, that keep driving us. So, you know, in that sense, our remembrance also isn't sustained. So that's why Baba says, these are the only things you should talk about amongst yourselves. You also have to become worthy. If after becoming Brahmins, you don't do the Father's spiritual service, of what use are you? You have to imbibe this study very well. Baba knows that many of you don't imbibe even one word. They don't remember the Father accurately. It does take effort to claim the status of a king or a queen. Those who make effort will claim a high status. Only when you make effort can you enter the royal family. Only those who are number one win a scholarship. Lakshmi Narayan claimed a scholarship. After that, it is number-wise. This is a very important examination. You know, the subject of a scholarship, and Baba's taking up the subject of worthiness and scholarship. And often in the Lokik world, I mean, I don't know about you, but I remember when I was applying for my entrance to Oxford University, you need to have fulfilled a certain criteria before they select you to give you a scholarship. You need to have accomplished certain things. And so in the subject of becoming worthy, the more that we've conscientiously used Gyan in our lives, and we've qualified ourselves, we've learned to, for example, speak softly, speak sweetly, speak in an elevated way. We've learned to sustain a subtle vision, really practiced in sustaining a positive vision for others, sustaining clean attitude for others. We've learned to make our karma pure and benevolent. All of these are practical aspects of our achievements with Gyan. It's on this basis that we become worthy. Because, you know, when we experience unworthiness, what do we experience? We experience the feeling, I'm not good enough, I can't do this, you know, this isn't possible. And why do those feelings come? Because at some point in our lives, we have done this much thinking, and from this much thinking, we've spoken this much, and from this much, we've done this much. And so the gap between our words, our actions, our words, and our thoughts is big. And so that brings a sense of uncertainty inside the soul, and the conscience bites because you see the gap. And so becoming worthy is really the effort, because Baba's been talking about moving according to the drama, to make my thoughts, my words, and my actions the same. And that internal effort enables me to win this scholarship that Baba's talking about. And so Baba says that only when you make effort can you enter the royal family. Only those who are number one win a scholarship. Lakshmi Narayan claim a scholarship. After that, it is number-wise. This is a very important examination. And the rosary is made up of those who won a scholarship. There are 8 jewels. There are the 8, then 100, and then 16,000. Therefore, you have to make so much effort in order to be threaded into the rosary. And what's the effort we need to make? Make effort to remain introverted, and you will win a right to the scholarship. You have to remain very introverted. The Father is the benefactor. He advises you for your own benefit. Benefit has to be brought to everyone in the whole world, but it is number-wise. You have come to the Father to study. Amongst you too, those who pay attention to the study are good students. Some pay no attention at all. Many just think that they will receive whatever is in their fortune. They have no aim in their studying. Therefore, you children have to keep a chart of your remembrance. We now have to return home. You will leave knowledge behind. The part of knowledge is to end. You know, it's very funny. Somebody asked me what I've seen in Daddy the last 10 years, especially since she came into Bharat. And Daddy was a master ocean of knowledge. Her classes, I mean, all of you have experienced them, incredible. And what I saw when she arrived in Bharat, and you know, who in the world at the age of 94 takes up a leadership position? And what I started to see was Daddy's intellect becoming more and more surrendered. And even though the detail in her classes were not so long and extensive, and she would start to bring everything back into essence, it's like that whole chapter in which she expanded knowledge and helped us to clarify knowledge was now coming back to its essence, which is, who am I and who do I belong to? And you could see Daddy just catapulting and surrendering herself into the experience of knowledge fully. And you know, I remember Brother Anthony from Greece one time describing a very beautiful process. I think all of you must know the subject of pole vaulting in sports, when you take a pole and you're running with it, and then the pole hits the ground and you catapult up to jump over a bar. And he says it's a bit like that, you know, you think, you churn knowledge, it elevates, it builds a momentum. And then at some point, as you lift and you elevate, you have to let go of the pole and surrender completely into the experience of being a soul and being in Baba's company. And that's the proof of love is the proof of knowledge. And that's what I saw in Daddy, especially more pronounced in the last 2 or 3 years. I saw that part of knowledge merging, and really she was just becoming a complete embodiment of love and experience. And so Baba's saying this, that the part of knowledge is to end. The soul is so tiny, and yet it has such a huge part to play. This is a wonder. This drama is eternal. Become introverted and continue to talk to yourselves in this way. You will then have a lot of happiness about how the Father comes and tells you things such as that souls are never destroyed. There is a part fixed in the drama for each human being and each object. There is a part for each human being and each object. It wouldn't be called unending. It reaches the end, but it is eternal. There's a beginning and an end in the drama, but the drama is eternal. There are so many things. It is called a wonder. It can't be called the wonder of God. Baba says, he says, I too have to play my part in this. Kudrat, it's nature, the drama. Acha? To the sweetest, beloved, long lost and now found children, love, remembrance, and good morning from the Mother, Father, Bapdada. The spiritual
Father says namaste to the spiritual children.
The spiritual children and
Says
spiritual children say
namaste to the spiritual father.
Father.
Thank you, Didi.
Thank you.
So essence for dharana. 1. A lot of effort is needed for yoga. Try and see for how long you stay in remembrance of the Father whilst doing things. Only by staying in remembrance of him can there be benefit. Remember the sweet beloved with a lot of love. Keep a chart of remembrance. 2. You need a refined intellect to understand the secrets of this drama. The drama is very beneficial. Whatever we say or do now, we will repeat after 5,000 years. Understand this accurately and remain happy. Blessing, very beautiful blessing. May you exchange love with one another, making everyone cooperative and thereby becoming an embodiment of success. You have now passed the stage of giving and receiving knowledge. Now, exchange love. Whoever comes in front of you, whoever comes into a relationship with you, give them love and receive love from them. This is known as being loving to all and being lovely. To those who don't have knowledge, you have to donate knowledge. But to the Brahmin family, be a great donor of this donation of love. Even in your thoughts, do not let there be anything other than love. When there is love for all, the response of love is cooperation. And the result of cooperation is success. Slogan: to put a full stop to waste thoughts in a second is to make intense effort. To put a full stop to waste thoughts in a second is to make intense efforts. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Like to share a little more if you have time.
Sure. You know, as I was reading the Murli this morning, I was remembering two stories. One was a time when I was quite little, because I came to Baba, in 77 and with my family. And shortly after that, I was I'd come to Madhuban. And if you remember the Tower of Peace, and you know where Indraprasth is on the ground floor, 4 daddies used to stay there. The first room, the far end, was Daddy Janki's. The second room was Daddy Chandramani's. The third room was Manohar Daddy. And the fourth room was Daddy Nirmal Shanta. And my father, at some point, took all of us children into Manohar Daddy's little room. And those rooms were so small, there was just about barely enough space for us to sit.
Where you came from Africa, yeah? Which
that
part
was
of Africa?
time in Africa, in Kenya. It was the time when we were still living in Kenya. And we bundled all up into Daddy Manohar's room, and then Daddy Chandramani came and joined us. So you can imagine, in this tiny little space, we're all, the bed is their sofa, they're sitting on the bed, and all of us little kids are sitting on the floor. And I was about maybe 8 years old. And what happened was my father then said to Daddy, teach them how to meditate, because they can't concentrate. So I was 8, my brother was 7, I had an older sister, another sister was still quite very young. And I remember thinking at that time, how is she going to teach us how to meditate? And they were so lovely. These daddies, it doesn't matter whether they're speaking to VIPs or whether they're speaking to children. What you could always feel was their love for Baba's knowledge and their passion for Baba's knowledge. And so Daddy Chandramani started by asking us the question, do you like to play with toys? Do you like to play with dolls? And I said, no, I like to play with cars. And so she said, well, okay, whatever you like to play with, you have to look after it. And so in the same way, the preparation for yoga is the preparation of learning to look after your mind. When you toys, you play with them, and then you put them back in the box and you put them away. So after whatever you do you take care of your mind in between tasks? Or do you constantly keep using it and burn it out? And so the whole premise that she was underlining is that in order to become a yogi, it's absolutely essential to care for your mind as if you're caring for a little child, something precious. And then Daddy Manor said, just as much as the mind needs love, it also needs law and discipline. And so then she gave us a method. And she said, I want you to go away and I want you to practice this. And she gave us 4 questions. And she said, start an internal conversation dialogue with the soul on these 4 questions and answer each question in turn. And repeat this cycle of 4 questions 3 times. And if your mind wanders off in between, go back to question 1 and repeat the cycle again. And don't get up from yoga until you've completed all 3 cycles without your mind wandering off. Now, just imagine that's homework for an 8-year-old. But you know, when you're in Madhuban, it's like Baba gives power. Anything the daddies say, there's also the power attached to that. And when you're a child and you're innocent, you know, you don't have that much in your intellect, you take and you're readily able to absorb pure offerings. And so, you know, Daddy said, you've got 1 hour, go away and practice, go sit in solitude anywhere and go and practice this. So I trotted off to Baba's room in the morning. And, you know, Baba's room in the morning, what was it, 10:30 or something in the morning? Vaguely, I remember. And of course, nobody's around at that time of the day. And I was alone in the room. And so I sat in a little bit in the center of the room in front of Baba's translight. And I started the dialogue. The 4 questions were, who am I? Who do I belong to? Where do I come from? And why am I here? So I start this dialogue inside. Who am I? And then as the dialogue is progressing, suddenly Anji back in Baba's room and sits down right between me and Nan's light. The whole room is empty and she sits right there. So my commentary starts, who am I? And then suddenly it goes, well, who is she? And you know how quickly the mind is distracted. So then I get up and I move somewhere else and I start again. Who am I? Who do I belong to? And then a big truck passes by outside and horns. And so I'm distracted again. So, you know, when Baba says remembrance is difficult, it's really slippery. And then I decided, no, I have to fulfill this homework because Daddy's given me this homework. And I have to go back with a result. And I remember the turning point for me in this was when I made my thought determined. Because I'm looking at myself at that time. You know, you don't consciously think I have to have a determined thought, but something inside you says, I have to do this. So that feeling arose very powerfully inside. I have to complete this homework. And then as I started this dialogue inside, who am I? Who do I belong to? Where do I come from? It was so powerful. Felt the intellect elevate, and I felt halfway through that practice, Baba just pulled my intellect into a different realm. And as Baba did that, I was lost in a real experience of bliss and light. I don't know where I was. And I was sitting there for a good 45 minutes till 11 o'clock, and it felt like a few seconds. And that was my first taste of, you know, as we say in Hindi, Viddhi se siddhi prapt hoti hai. To attain success in anything, you need a method. You know, Bhakti Bhavna has played a huge role in us coming to Baba, taking knowledge from Baba, being disciplined. But within that knowledge are very clearly defined methods. And if we adopt those methods and follow them, then success follows us like a shadow. And this practice of yoga for me, since that time where I've trained my mind and intellect to reset itself. And so it doesn't matter what is happening around me. I'll give myself a few seconds and just take myself through this cycle. And suddenly I'm reset into the unlimited. It could be a meeting, it could be a situation of conflict, it could be anything. And I found that by doing this practice, it helps me to keep my intellect focused, concentrated, and in the unlimited. And that's so important because, you know, the pull of body consciousness is a bit like a gravitational pull. It just pulls you to think about things, to think about people, to think about what someone has said to you, when they said it to you, how they said it to you. It makes you remember people. It makes you record things in your chit, in your memory track. And then that stuff, you ruminate over it. It repeats in your mind. So, you know, yoga, I mean, of course, our beloved Daddy, you know, Baba, we say in Hindi, rag rag mein tha, means it was in her veins. Baba was in her veins. And that's why Daddy from so many years ago, you know, and I've known Daddy since I was a baby, a child. Other than her gyan, Daddy's capacity to give Baba's love. This is what sustains growth, is love. And it's Baba's love. And you know, Daddy had a lot of integrity in this subject. I can share many, many stories. We have 20 minutes. But I want to share one particular story about the accuracy of Baba's, of Daddy's love for Baba, and how Daddy would not make us dependent on her. You know, she would always point us to that Baba. Many times we would come and sit with her. You know, we just, you know, you think you want to refresh yourself a little bit, go and sit with her. And she'd always be reading something, or, you know, she would be occupied in some form of gyan. And she'd let us sit there for a few minutes, 4 or 5 minutes. Then she'd turn around and say to us, "Kya kuch kaam nahi hai kya?" You know, like, don't you have anything to do? Go and do your work. You know, so she would let us come and take a little bit, and then not to just sit there and do nothing, but she'd say, go and do your work, sort it out. And then she would arrange special times, perhaps evening or midday, where she would engage us in half an hour, 40-minute chit chats. You know, and these were powerful times, because in these times, you know, she would be so open. She helped us to break our body consciousness very powerfully. You know, there were moments when she'd say to us, okay, everybody in this room, I mean, may have been 10 or 12 sisters sitting around her. Everybody else in this room, tell me, what is your weakness? Now imagine, you know, you have to reveal your weakness in front of others. Your body consciousness breaks automatically. And all of that was part and parcel of helping us to become more unlimited. And she did that very purposefully. Only she could do that, by the way, in our relationships, so that our body consciousness would break in our relationships with each other. You know, when you're authentic and you're transparent and you're very real about yourself, there's a natural love that flows. People don't expect you to be perfect, but there is the feeling that it's nice to meet an energy that's authentic and real. And that's what Daddy was. Very, very real. You know, I remember another time, and this was way in the early days of when Oxford, the Global Retreat Center, opened. And during that time, I don't know if some of you remember one of Baba's child, he's no longer with us today, Brian Bacon, who started the SML, the Self-Managing Leadership programs. And Brian and myself had created a retreat for Fortune 500 CEOs, executives, leadership retreat with him and Daddy as main resources, where spirituality meets business, and really targeting the top, you know, tier of CEOs, mainly in Europe. And we call these retreats the global executive retreats. And Daddy would come to them. And we maybe had about 4 or 5 of these retreats with a small group of 35, 40 people. And in one of these retreats, there was an evening session. And in this evening session, Brother Neville was interviewing Daddy and Brian. And I was translating for Daddy. And Neville started by asking Daddy the question, you have known Brian for 20, 25 years, however many years at that time. So tell us what his speciality is. So, Daddy started to answer the question. He goes, well, you've been seeing him. He's playing his part. Whatever he's received from Baba, it's all being revealed in front of you. All that wisdom is being revealed. And she was going on like this. And then Neville Bhai interjected again and said, but Daddy, can you directly answer the question? Can you say, Brian's speciality is this? And he was trying to pin her down. And then Daddy, in that moment, said, Karan Karavanhar Baba is doing his work. He's playing his part. Why should Daddy interfere to tell you what his speciality is when it's visible to all of you? Because if today Daddy interferes and tells Brian what his speciality is, then tomorrow Brian will have permission to tell Daddy what her weakness is, and Daddy does not want to enter into games of relationship like this. It was such a powerful moment in that room when she was revealing a natural process of the drama, that she has had such a real relationship with drama. That's what's made Daddy so real. She was so aware that every soul is playing their part. She was so aware of this thing that every second is finishing. Something is coming to go. All of you know about Daddy's health. Daddy's had always delicate health from many, many years and been at death's door quite a few times. And one time, quite a few years ago in Madhuban, it was off season. And Daddy was very, very sick. She had a chest infection. She had a urine infection. She couldn't speak. She had high fever. She was on a drip. She was lying down. And Hansaben and myself were here at that time. And we were doing round the clock, being with Daddy, morning, noon, and evening. And, even then, Daddy would motion with her eyes, don't tell anybody not to come. Daddy will give drishti, even in that state. And I remember Sister Gayatri from New York had flown in. And when she came because she really Daddy's health, a week of Daddy in that condition, Daddy had enough energy to go and sit on her sofa. So she sat down. And when she sat down, what happened was Gayatri asked her the question, Daddy, where do you get your energy from? And Daddy closed her eyes and she put her head back. And Daddy says, Daddy knows a deep secret in the drama. Whatever has come has to go. And so Daddy just waits for it to go. This was Daddy's deep, deep relationship and understanding and faith in the drama. That's why it didn't matter what happened to Daddy's body. And a lot of things happen. I mean, we have seen Daddy in intense pain. But one moment she's in pain, the next moment it's like she's forgotten it. It's like she just lets it pass. It comes, it's like a wave, and then it goes. She doesn't hold on to it. She doesn't interfere in that moment. She doesn't question it. Oh, is it come? When is it going to go? Or how long is this going to last? I've never, even until very recently, Daddy never used to even vocalize that she had pain. Sometimes she would say, Hansa would complain, but Daddy, tell us, how can we help you if you don't tell us? And Daddy would say, Lekin, आता है और जाता है, मुझे पता भी नहीं चलता है कि वो गया. Means that it's come and it's gone, and by the time it's gone, how can I tell you that I have pain because it's gone already? So that is very, very deep understanding of the drama made her an honest, real, and authentic effort maker. And when I say that, that's why she was able to follow the principles that Baba laid out in front of her. You know, she would often say to us that there's power you get from yoga. You know, in yoga, there are 5 things we get. And yoga is like a portal of energy, Baba's energy that gets downloaded when we remember Baba. And there are 5 things you get in yoga. The first is, of course, Baba's love and affection in every relationship, be it the father, the friend, the mother. It's Baba's affection that the soul feels and Baba's love. The second is Shakti. You get Baba's powers through Yad, through yoga. The third, also in order to perform, you know, in the field of service, Baba also gives Sakash, that current of light and might, that extra boost for us to be able to have the courage to do things on the battlefield and on the path of service. The fourth thing is strength. Now, it's very interesting. She said, in the subject of strength comes niyam ka bal. So, for example, that strength we get from yoga has a lot to do with our consistency in connecting with Baba. How disciplined we remain in that connection with Baba. You know, like, for example, Baba gives that example just recently in the Murlis. 12 times practice the 5 forms. That's a principle. And so when you start practicing that, you get strength from that practice of remembrance. So that's what is referred to as niyam ka bal, and that's the 4th thing you get in remembrance. And then the 5th thing is inspiration, prerna. You know, sometimes Dadi would say, "Mujhe jaise kuch lagta hai ki Baba prerta hai." It's like there's a feeling of being inspired by something that's bigger than you. And that energy of inspiration can make things happen beyond you as an individual. And so, you know, Dadi had a very deep stability inside her because she had such a relationship and respect and understanding of the drama. And then on this side, she had her own niyam, her principles that she never let go. Up until the age of 95, 96, she was getting up for Amrit Vela without fail. Up until 94, she was conducting Amrit Vela in the gathering. She had the strength of her principles. And you know, in the last year, her mantra had been 3 things. Her mantra had been Sachai, Safai, and Sadgi. So that's honesty, simplicity, cleanliness, honesty, and simplicity. And she just kept repeating it like a mantra for the last year. And you know, I've been involved in Madhuban with so much of this health and hygiene that I would joke with Daddy. I was saying, "Daddy, your mantra is beginning this whole movement of a cleanup in Madhuban and headquarters." And she's also the president, by the way, of the Swachh Bharat initiative. She's one of the main patrons of the Swachh Bharat initiative program in India. And you know what I saw at the end? I saw how drama saluted this soul. Daddy would always say, "I don't want a penny to be spent on my funeral." Daddy's other mantra was economy ek nami. Jo kuch bhi dena hai, whatever you have to give, you to give. And so use it in a worthwhile way, because at the end, there won't be time to use your money for anything. And so, who will want paper notes at the end? There won't be any use for it. And so as much as possible, use your body, mind, and wealth in Baba's yagya and for Baba's service. And so Daddy had all of these principles and mantras that she would recite to us. And she lived by that. In the West, we say, you are defined by what you do when no one is watching you. And so what are you doing behind closed doors? And for me, I've had the fortune to watch Daddy behind closed doors and on the stage. And let me tell you, whatever is private is public. There is no such thing as privacy in Daddy's life. So sometimes you have to be very careful what you say, because next thing, she'll share it in morning class, or she'll say this one said this and this one felt like this. And so nothing was private in Daddy's class. Her relationship with Baba was transparent. Her efforts were transparent, because she had no desires. And because she had no desires, she had nothing to hide. She conquered desire because she understood the drama very, very deeply. I remember when we were going to get Worthing, and of course, in the initial stages, buying another retreat center, there was a bit of resistance. And, I'd say to Daddy, but Daddy, what do you do when somebody doesn't listen to you? You give an idea and somebody doesn't listen to you. And Daddy said, well, I gave ideas and none of you listened to me, but is it my idea? If it's meant to be in the drama, it will happen. So my job is to just share the idea and then step back. And then if it's in the drama, it will happen. And these are powerful moments of, getting a window into seeing how Daddy Ji operated very deeply, her trust and her faith in the drama very powerfully. So, of course, there are umpteen stories, and at the end, everything happened so fast. You must have watched it. I was there. We received the call at 2:45 in the morning, and myself and Sister Urvashi were in Pandap Bhavan, and immediately we rushed to the hospital, and we were one of the first ones there. And I remember walking into the room, and it just looked like Daddy was sleeping. There was no feeling that Daddy had gone. It was just a very, I thought, oh my gosh, I can see the body moving. And there was just this feeling of incredible light and happiness in the room. She was free. And she had chosen how she wants to leave. No pipes were attached to her, nothing. And she chose to leave in a very simple way, the way that she would have wanted the most. And everything happened without any expenditure, very simply. And imagine if there had not been lockdown, hundreds of thousands of people would have spent tickets to come to Madhuban. And she wouldn't have wanted that. She would have said, stay in your service places, do service, because that's what she often said. And so for a soul that is Siddhi Swarup, this is a very beautiful title, Siddhi Swarup, the one that has mastered the arts, a success. She's become an embodiment of success because she has mastered matter and she's mastered arts. That, at the end, drama and the elements salute such a soul and fulfill her wishes. And Daddy's surrender was amazing. Even the last Bhog message that came on the 13th day. And Baba saying to Daddy, okay, we're now going to send you on a tour of world service. And Daddy very simply saying, wherever Baba sends me, I'm ready. No desire, nothing else. Wherever Baba sends me, I'm ready. And so Daddy's example of a deeply surrendered life and what it means to be with Baba, to live a life with Baba, to become worthy as well was an incredible example that this amazing soul set for us. And so with those thoughts, I just want to give you once again lots and lots of love from Madhuban and the family here in Madhuban. And it's of course a very unique time. If all of you picture Madhuban and come to Shantivan, and if you know Dadiji's meeting hall, because of social distancing, we only have 25 chairs in that whole meeting hall, and they're all like 2 meters spread apart. And every morning, Dadi Ratamohini reads Murli to us. So it's a small, intimate gatherings in the morning. Of course, wherever everybody is, they listen to the Murli on the loudspeaker. But these are very unusual times, but also at the same time, very special times where a lot of healing is happening, reconciliation is happening, and Baba's deeply underlining for us to increase the power of silence so that we can accumulate that silence and serve the souls of the world at this time. Om Shanti. So let's go back to that meditation practice and start this dialogue inside. Who am I? Who do I belong to? Where do I come from? Why am I here? And as we become absorbed in the awareness of the self, of Baba, and the home, we remind ourselves it's time to go home. And as we sit with Baba in the home, emerge the whole world in front of us and send Baba's rays of love and light and peace to all the souls of the world. Om Shanti.